Before we dive in, if you're passionate about history, survival, and the lessons we can take from the past to live smarter today, make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment below with your favorite historical siege or survival story. Your insights help build this community of dedicated historians and survivalists. Now let's take a journey into the forgotten world of ancient warfare, specifically how soldiers and civilians alike preserved food under the most extreme circumstances, and why these lessons remain profoundly relevant for modern survival planning. Siege conditions forced civilizations to innovate in ways we often overlook. When we think of ancient warfare, grand battles and monumental strategies often dominate the narrative. Yet behind the walls of besieged cities and fortified castles, survival depended not on swords or catapults, but on food that could endure months without spoiling. The ability to store, ration, and maintain food supplies often determined the outcome of sieges. For instance, during the Roman Empire, entire legions marched with preserved rations like hardtack and salted meats, carefully engineered to withstand time, weather, and even enemy encirclement. These innovations were not trivial, they were matters of life and death. For today's history, enthusiasts and survivalists understanding these methods provides insight into both human ingenuity and practical survival strategies that remain relevant centuries later. Salt and smoke were the foundation of survival. Salt was perhaps the most critical resource for ancient armies. Not only did it preserve meat and fish, but it also prevented bacterial growth that would otherwise ruin supplies during extended campaigns. Roman legions, Viking raiders, and medieval castles all relied heavily on salted provisions. Smoke preservation, or smoking meats over low fires, added both flavor and shelf life. This technique slowed decomposition and made rations portable. Modern survivalists can replicate these methods by curing meats with salt or smoking them at home. Even in contemporary camping or long-term emergency preparation, properly salted or smoked foods can provide high-calorie, protein-rich sustenance that remains edible without refrigeration. To apply this today, start with small batches. Cure chicken or pork with a salt mixture for several days, then smoke over a low flame. Once cooled, vacuum seal and store in a cool, dry location. Not only will you extend the shelf life, but you will also gain first-hand understanding of the preservation methods that sustained soldiers through months of isolation. While meats drew attention, the core of siege survival was often plant-based. Ancient civilizations understood the longevity of grains, legumes, and dried fruits. Romans carried wheat and barley, which could be ground into flour or boiled into porridge. Medieval European defenders stored beans, lentils, and dried vegetables in clay jars or wooden barrels, often in underground cellars to avoid temperature fluctuations. Dehydration and airtight storage were primitive, yet highly effective methods of extending shelf life. Today, anyone preparing for survival scenarios can draw lessons from these practices. Dehydrating fruits, beans, and vegetables at home, then storing them in airtight containers, mirrors the ancient approach. Layering grains in dry, cool conditions prevents mold and insect contamination. Even simple practices such as rotating supplies and checking for moisture reflect centuries of trial and error in siege conditions. Fermented foods, from sauerkraut to pickled vegetables, played an often overlooked role in ancient military campaigns. Fermentation not only preserved food for months but also provided essential nutrients, especially vitamin C, preventing diseases like scurvy among sailors and soldiers. Norse longships, for example, relied on fermented cabbage and fish to maintain crew health during months at sea. Fermented grains and dairy products were similarly valued in Eastern and Mediterranean armies. For modern survivalists, fermentation is both a preservation technique and a nutritional safeguard. Learning to pickle vegetables or ferment grains at home provides a continuous supply of nutrient-rich food that can, outlast refrigeration in emergencies. Starting a simple sauerkraut jar or yogurt fermentation project teaches patience and precision, skills that are, honestly, critical in any survival context. Ancient sieges forced defenders to think about water as critically as food. Grains and legumes required boiling, while meat needed hydration to prevent spoilage during long storage. Romans used amphorae to store not only wine, but also water mixed with vinegar, creating an acidic environment that extended shelf life. Similarly, medieval defenders boiled soups and pottages, then cooled and stored them in sealed vessels. These methods maintained both edibility and nutrition over long periods. Modern enthusiasts can take inspiration by practicing safe water storage and using cooking techniques that preserve nutrients. Boiling, reducing, or even canning foods increases their shelf life and, mirrors the disciplined approaches used in ancient sieges. It's a lesson in patience, preparation, and strategic resource management that is just as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. The overarching lesson is that scarcity breeds innovation. Ancient armies, city defenders, and seafaring crews devised food systems that balanced preservation, nutrition, and portability. For anyone building a survival pantry today, studying these strategies provides more than historical curiosity. It offers actionable methods for long-term food sustainability, integrating salt-cured meats, dried legumes, fermented vegetables, and proper water storage into your emergency plans mirrors centuries of battle-tested knowledge. The difference is that you have the advantage of modern materials and technology, which can amplify ancient techniques rather than replace them. Moreover, hands-on experimentation with these methods, smoking meat, fermenting cabbage, storing grains, develops intuition about spoilage, hydration, and nutrient balance. This transforms knowledge from theory into lived experience, exactly as soldiers and civilians experienced during sieges. In conclusion, forgotten warfare teaches us that the art of survival often depends more on foresight, patience, and resourcefulness than on strength or weaponry. Ancient techniques of salting, smoking, fermenting, and drying foods were sophisticated responses to extreme conditions, systems that modern survivalists can replicate for both practical preparedness and historical insight. By studying these methods, you gain access to centuries of proven human ingenuity and can apply them in scenarios ranging from urban emergencies to wilderness expeditions. If this exploration into siege survival has sparked your curiosity, subscribe to Wartime Survival for more in-depth historical guides and practical applications. Share this video with fellow history enthusiasts and survivalists, and comment below with your favorite ancient preservation method or any experiments you've tried yourself. Engaging with these timeless techniques not only strengthens your understanding of history, but equips you with skills that are profoundly relevant for modern survival.